Hello everybody, Helcrex here, and welcome to another Mercenary Thoughts from the Inner Sphere, episode 393. And today we're going to be talking about the 75-ton Toyama. There, gosh, I don't know why I can't say that today. And what we got is 75-ton mech from basically Free Worlds League / Word of Blake. All hail Word of Blake. Kind of an interesting mech. I've used this before at Gen Con and Origins in our era when we were battling it out and using, advancing the WOB forces down the battlefield. It's very useful, but it does have some drawbacks with it. But we're just going to discuss that. All right, so the Toyama is a 75-ton mech. It's a 460. So new jump jets on board. Its mobility is typical of like most 75-ton inner sphere mechs. You know, most of the time you're going to find them running around as a 4.6. It has Steel. All right. It has a 300 XL engine. So yeah, you're freeing up some tonnage there, but you know your life expectancy and from personal experience, yeah. It has 14 double heat sinks, so it can dissipate 28, and if you're running, 26. And it has 12 tons of standard slab armor for, 192 points, so basically 3 tons short of maximum. So, or 2.5. I think it's 2.5. So, it could have some more. Just put it that way. All right, so, and then it has a plethora of weapons. Basically, just think of this as an Orion with an XL engine and Steel. Yeah, okay. That's how I thought of it when I first started playing it back in the 75 tons. Okay, it's got an LRM 20. All right. It has 2 large lasers in the right arm. Right torso, it has that LRM 20. With 2 tons of ammo, and then it has 3 medium lasers in the left torso. It's got Guardian ECM, and then it has an LBX-10 autocannon in the left arm with 2 tons of ammunition. All right, so basically, it just basically screams to me this was an Orion that's just been redesigned with Steel and XL engines, and kind of reconfiguring how the weapon systems are. And that's what I thought years ago when I first when I played one. Now, the interesting thing is that we're going to get into some derivations of this, you know, some variants of it. But I was like reading this and I was like, huh. One of the versions I used had a heavy PPC on board instead of the LBX-10. And it also had a C3 Slave on board, and it was better armored, if I remember right, comparatively. So there are some variants running around, but basically it had all the same weapon systems on board. And we were running it in Lances. We had a company basically set up with command mechs and stuff, and for early WOB forces, and it did pretty decently. It was tearing stuff up. But, yeah, I kind of digress. Now, how do I feel about it? Well, it's one of those mechs that when you're looking at it, it's like, man, this thing can run hot. Really hot. Real dang hot. So, if you fire the 2 large lasers and the autocannon, not so bad. Because you can dissipate 28. And if you fire those different weapon systems, you're not doing too bad overall when it comes to the heat on the heat scale, because you know you got 28 to dissipate, and then you're looking at the 2 there's 24. The LBX is going to be putting you at 26, and if you run, you're at 28. So you can fire those weapon systems with no problem. Now, you throw into the mix the LRM-20. It's like, why aren't you throwing the LRM? It's like you throw the LRM-20 into the mix, then you start getting warm because you can't dissipate that heat. You know, you're going up 6 on the heat scale just immediately. if you're running, and if you walk, then you're going up 5. And you already shot yourself in the foot. You're now a 3-5 moving mech, and then if you do that 2 turns in a row, now you're now a 2-4 moving mech. You know, you see how this is going. It's like you're causing yourself nothing but misery by firing all the weapon systems. And it was like when I was looking at it, it's like there were many battles where I did not fire one of the large lasers. I just never did, because it's just too much heat to be added into the mix, and with, you know, causing yourself so many problems. And that's how I always play the games. It's like I can live with maybe 4 heat, but I do not go. It's like if I reach that 4 heat threshold, the next turn I'm not firing something so I can dissipate that off, and then I can start creep things back up again. But I'm not willingly going past 4 unless I have triple strength my armor on board. And then obviously you want to get to the 9, and then you keep it at 9. And you just like, you're not going up and you're not going down. You just keep it at. And you know, you got to manage your heat well. That means either shutting off heat sinks, or, and in some cases it would be really nice, in this case of this mech, take one of those large lasers and convert it into some more armor, like 2 more tons of armor. It's like if you're looking at the standard version here of the 1A, lose one of the large lasers, give yourself 2 more tons of armor, and then put a slave on board, and then maybe another medium laser or something of that nature. So you'd have like 4 medium lasers, you know, go that route. Because I believe this thing has, yeah, you got 2 slots open, or maybe it's just the 1. Yeah, I just got the 1 in the head, so meh, that could be a problem. So, but if you remove a large laser, that's fine then. It's not an issue then, because then you're freeing up 2 spots for that. So that's not an issue there. So, okay, I digress. But that's kind of like how I felt about it when I was playing. It's like one of those weapon systems is just totally useless to you unless you love barbecuing the pilot on board. So yeah, it's like if I have a choice between firing the LRM or a large laser, I'm probably going to fire the LRM, just because it does more damage. Now, if the firing solution is like really high, like I need 11 or 12 to hit, probably just going to fire the 2 large lasers and call it, you know, just like call it a wash, just because I don't want to waste ammo or anything of that nature. Because it's like energy, it's just fire and forget. You know, it doesn't cause, if it's net 0, yeah, then you fire the energy weapons. But if you really are like in a campaign setting like we typically play, yeah, you're going to be looking at it and go, do I want to fire all that ammo, or else I'm just firing energy weapons? So that case, yeah, it's kind of useful that way. But, you know, that's one of the problems with this mech, is that you have to really balance your heat management. It's like if you don't play Succession Wars, where you have to play heat management all the time, and you're always playing in Advanced Tech Wars where you got all the bells and whistles, a lot of people have a hard time managing their heat because they just don't pay attention to it very much. And then they realize, oh, I'm barbecuing my pilot. He's in a hot, doing the old sauna bath. So you got to look at that. But basically how you use this thing, the standard 1A, you kind of play it like in Orion. I typically would fire a large laser. You're going to fire the LRM. You're going to fire the LBX cannon in most cases. And you're going to be running really cool. You're not going to have to worry about heat problems. And then if you get in closer, I'm most definitely going to be firing, probably adding in a couple medium lasers into the mix. You know, go that route. Or even in the case of you got a really good firing solution with your medium lasers and your LBX cannon, which you got 2 tons of ammo with that thing, so most likely you're going to have 1 of each. for ammo type. And most of the time, though, I'm probably going to be using cluster munitions. Just the fact that I like cluster munitions, because it's part of the crit hunting concept I just love doing. And nothing like getting, typically you're going to get 6 hits with that thing on the table. It's like you hit with it, and then you roll on the tables. That most average hit's going to be 6. And then that's 6 one-point shots. That's 6 opportunities to get a head hit, get a floating crit someplace, that type of deal. That's what I like about, the LBX cannon over just a solid AC or ultra cannon. I'm not a fan of ultra cannons at all, because you got to hit, and then you got to roll again to see if you even get that second one, and you're already paying the tax for the extra ammo that you already fired. So, and with my experience, most of the time you're not getting the double pump coming across, because you got to roll an 8 or better. So, yeah, I don't like that. So, yeah. So basically, yeah, you're going to be using this mech as part of your lance. And in a lot of cases, this might be the weapon. This is kind of the mech that you're firing in the middle of the firing order. You may have one mech that's going to have a lot of heavier weapons that are going to be punching holes through. This guy's probably the second one that goes through. Maybe the third one that fires on it, because you're going to focus on one mech to begin with as part of that lance. And then you're going to have hopefully one mech left over of the 4 out of the lance that might have more, like SRMs, more, maybe another LBX cannon and some SRMs or something of that nature. Or in the case, this may be the last one you do fire, because it does, the only one that has the crit hunting weapon system. So you got to look at that. Now, did come in at 1,714 is your battle value on this thing. And it's pricey just because of that XL engine on board. It comes in at 16 million C-bills. Yeah, that's pretty expensive. Yeah. Did I mention it has Guardian ECM? I don't think I did. So Guardian ECM is also helpful. Keeps that Artemis at bay and shutting down other people's C3 networks. What's not to like about that? All right, so the next version on the list, we do have the 1B. Now, this one is full-fledged Word of Blake. I've seen this one in the wild before. It has an improved C3 network. All right, that's in the right torso. We have an LRM-15 in the right torso, so it's basically been downgraded, mostly because you no longer have the XL engine. You got a light fusion engine on board, and with the light fusion engine, you're not having that big 50%. It's a lot less savings, so you have to start cutting off weapon systems to make up the difference. But your survivability is a lot better, because instead of having 3 engine hits lost with the torso taken out, you're only losing 2, and you got a heat spike, but you're still alive. And if you're still alive, you can still send stuff downrange. And this comes in with a slight 24-point increase in cost, which comes in at 1,738. So a little bit more expensive. Not bad though. Then we have 2 ER medium lasers in the left torso. So basically you lost one of the standard medium lasers. So you're gaining 3 hex range for the same amount of damage with those weapons. I can see why people would upgrade to an ER medium laser. Get a little bit better range, better firing solution. And we have the 2 ER large lasers been downgraded to 2 light PPCs in the right arm. So your damage output's been dropped by 3 on each. And it goes out to 18 with only roughly, you're losing 3 per shot and 1 hex range. So kind of a trade-off there. But then you have a heavy PPC in the left arm. So that LBX has been replaced with a PPC, heavy PPC, for 15 points of heat and 15 points of damage. Okay. And you're dissipating 32 heat because you got 16 heat sinks. So with the big heavy weapon system, okay, you have altogether, all your weapons are going to be creating 30 heat. And if you run, that's 32. So this is a nice net zero heat when it comes to this mech. So that's one thing you don't have to worry about heat raising everything up. It's nice, well balanced when it comes to the heat output. And let's see, the legs were upgraded slightly. Yeah, that's like, I think there's a half-ton more armor on this thing. 2, 4, 10. That's a little bit more. Yeah, it looks like about a ton. They added a ton of, 1 more ton of armor on board. So, yeah, it's been slightly upgraded a little bit. So, I've also kind of messed around with this one before, too, on the battlefield. And a couple other games. And it's kind of nice having the C3 improved C3 system. So, but yeah, the only drawback, you can only put so many mechs on the C3 improved network. I think it's 6 is max you can have on it versus you can put 12 out on a standard C3 network. So, but that's okay. Typically, we only ran them in Lance packs, so works out fairly decent. Typically, you have 3 mechs with your heavy follow-on force like this one here, and then you'd have one that's your eyes and ears for the network for that Lance. You know, typically at your fastest moving, that's usually an 8-12-8 type of mech with an improved C3 network to help out greatly work together. So, kind of nice. So, but in this case, you got this mech that goes forward. You're going to hit somebody with the heavy PPC. You're going to hit them with the 2 light PPCs and the 2. If you're in range, you're going to be hitting them with the ER medium lasers. But if you're not, then you're still going to be able to throw in the 2. Actually, the heat is 10, 25, 30, 35. I was wrong. I was thinking, yeah, this thing can get hot if you fire the 2 ER medium lasers. Wasn't counting that. Sorry. The nice thing, though, is you can fire the LRM and the heavy PPC and the 2 light PPCs, and you're not worrying about heat problems at all. It's when you fire the second ER medium laser is when you start causing problems with the heat. And in that case, it may not be necessary because minimum range problems with the LRM-15 may say, yeah, I can't fire that thing, so I'm going to throw in the ER medium laser instead and go that route. But in the case, you got to look at this thing as a large body. You're looking at a Lance instead of just an individual mech. You're looking at it as working in a larger force structure together to dish out the damage. And typically, you're going to have a couple other mechs. Let's see, we were running these with some Celestials on the board. And I think we had a few of those mixed in with the Lance because of the network system. And the guys that were running it say, yeah, you got to get your guy up there, take your mech up close, get it in their face. And it's like, we'll just sit back here and fire. It's like, oh, I see what you want to do. You want me to draw all the fire while you sit back and take it. Okay, I see how that works. But yeah, that's kind of like how it worked. And we were tearing things up. Worked out pretty decently. And then we have the 2B, or that's the 1B. Now we got the 1C. This one, I'm not overly a big fan of this one, but it does still come in at 1,727 battle value. So it's roughly still keeping it within the same ballpark of the other ones for battle value. Dissipates 24 heat because it's got 12 double heat sinks. And let me check here. This one I think had been maxed out on the armor. Yeah, I believe so. Or added another half ton. I think it's got another half ton. 1.5 more tons of armor versus the standard 1A. The interesting thing is it still has the improved improved C3. Okay, you got that in the left torso, so I have that. It's got Artemis fire control added onto the LRM-20. So, you know, give or take, it's going to be an improvement on the amount of damage. Typically, you're still going to be doing 12 to 16 on an average for amount when you hit with that thing. Then we got 2 medium variable speed pulse lasers. Those go out to 9, so it's going to be 975 for damage output, and they create 7 heat each. And then we got a Gauss rifle in the left arm. So personally, let's say you're looking at 14, 20, 21, up to 23 heat you dissipate, and you cause 24. All right, so you got that. And you're still being able to punch somebody up to 22 and 21 with possibly 35 points of damage. That's not bad. And if you get within 9, then you kick in the pulse lasers, and then you are adding in up if you're in their face at short ranges too. So you definitely probably do not want to get into somebody's face in that case at 2, because you're looking at minimum ranges with your 2 is heavy weapons. You know, it's like your LRM's minimum range is 6 and your Gauss rifle is 2. So I can see if someone looks at it, it's like, I'm going to get right in your face and make it really hard for you to do damage to me. Even though if there's pulse lasers are in range, they're going to cause problems for you. And in that case, if they're in front of you, all you're going to do is kick. Or the interesting thing is that it doesn't have the lower arm actuator or the hand. So in this case, if they're behind you, it doesn't really matter. You can flip the arms and give them something with the variable speed pulse laser and the Gauss rifle. So there's that. But still, the other weapons are facing forward, so that could be, with your LRM-20, that could be a problem. 2 different arcs. So yeah, you got to look at that. But this one, if you're running a lance, you might have one of these running around in your lance along with the other ones that I described. And if you got a C3 network, you're going to have the improved CPU, which would be the 1B, would be able to run with this one. Work in conjunction. You have a couple weapon systems that can punch and rip off some holes in somebody. And then you have a semi-crit hunting LRMs on both of the mechs, which is kind of nice, going down that route. And then obviously you kind of almost have to look at like in the 1B, where the light PPCs can be considered your kind of a crit hunting version of that one. They're doing 5s, but even a 5 can do crit chance. But overall, it's not something that you really consider. It's not this version is not one that just screams at me, hey, yeah, I gotta throw that one on the board type of deal. So just gonna say. Now, I did mention in the past, I believe it was based on the 1B, because I remember having a heavy PPC instead of the LBX. But I had standard medium lasers and the LRM-20 with, might have been, I don't know, I can't remember if it had the slave or the improved CPU. It's been a while. but I think it might have been improved. That would have been an interesting little one going down, because I think that was a modification that they did themselves to be able to change things out a little bit. To work with the Celestials is a little bit hard-hitting. But overall, not a bad mech if you work it in conjunction with other mechs of the same caliber and networking it. And then it really comes and starts shining pretty decently. Until you lose the eyes and ears, and somebody's got to go forward. You, hey, Tag, you're it. You're now the eyes. Ah, crud. Type of deal. So that's it. That is the Toyama. Not a bad mech per se. It has its uses on the battlefield. All right, so like and subscribe, share with friends, and we'll see you in the next one. Alcrex out.